This clip is brought to you by SaveWithConrad.com. But we should talk about what happens with Daniel Bryan. This is the most talked about story of the week back when it happened. Meltzer would write, Bryan Danielson became the most talked about wrestler in the industry the past weekend after being fired by Vince McMahon personally on June 11th. Over the past week, the situation had been hugely discussed because of aspects where it seemed like a work storyline. In the end, the story seems to make no logical sense as to either storyline or reality. Either way, though, Danielson was fired late Friday night Eastern time by McMahon, and creative and all the major company executives were said to have no idea anything was even brewing. There were those who knew that there was some heat on the angle itself because of the feeling they had promised sponsors a PG show. An aspect of that angle violated that promise, but nobody expected a scapegoat or a firing out of it. Just that they would have to be more careful in the future. Most, however, thought it was a great angle, and as the week went on, ratings for NXT the next day were up, as were ratings for Raw the next week. There was no appreciable difference in house show attendance. All the major company executives were immediately informed, and moments later, the WWE website released the news. The point being, if this is a work, Vince McMahon is keeping it a secret from virtually everyone and lying to the COO, vice presidents, people in payroll, marketing, creative, the people in control of drug testing, etc. In addition, Danielson would be lying to his best friends, both in and out of the organization. Danielson has been vague on his writing about the subject, but he may not have known what he could and couldn't say without getting in unnecessary heat that would have hurt a possible return. While he had people in the company who were legitimately not his supporters, the general reaction is the wrestlers greatly respected his ability, and he was a model employee. He got high marks for his interviews and his physical angles with Michael Cole and The Miz, which were far more believable than 98% of other WWE angles. Danielson at this point is already taking independent bookings all over the world, with the caveat that during his 90-day non-compete through September 11th, he can't work on TV or pay-per-view. The belief is he can be taped on the July 24th Dragon Gate USA show in Philadelphia, which is a pay-per-view, but it won't air until after September 11th. The only companies he's outright banned from appearing for right now is TNA, and he'll remain on payroll until September 11th. And then after that point, he's free to go to TNA. Now, we know what's going to wind up happening here. Daniel Bryan comes back and becomes the hottest star in the industry and proves all the critics wrong and has a hero story payoff at WrestleMania 30. But boy, it's looking pretty bleak here in June of 2010. The rumor and innuendo we would hear as fans over the years is when he sort of freestyled the decision to choke Justin Roberts with his tie, that's what did him in. Is that what you guys heard as agents?
Pretty much. You want to hear my opinion?
Yes, please.
Okay. Just knowing the way things are and the way things were, those guys were given carte blanche to go and destroy everybody.
Right.
And everything, including the ring. Now you're thinking about this. This is a television show. And if you tear up all the announce tables and you tear up the ring, you're going to have some serious dead time. Right?
Right.
Trying to repair all that to have the rest of the show. But I'm sure these guys, and Daniel Bryan included, were told, man, go out there and get yourself over. Be a vicious prick. No one said, because at that time and to this day, there's no such thing as choking.
Right.
And we know why.
Sure.
Don't need to go back and relive this, but choking, now a guy can fall off the top of a ladder on top of another guy and blow that ladder that's underneath him in half, risking getting impaled and everything else, but you can't choke a guy. Like the audience is going to give you this tidal wave of backlash that it reverts back to something in the terrible past.
Right.
I don't think anybody puts that 2 and 2 together to make 4. That's just me. But the second it went down and no one pre-warned the guy, I'm sure he wasn't thinking about it. Choking had always been something that had been part of a heel's repertoire. It's just always was. If done properly, it's vicious. So that went down before anybody knew it. The guy in the big chair saw it and probably went apeshit, because it was clear, not even grabbing a guy with one hand by the throat was allowed, but it was too late in his mind. So I think the firing was a shoot.
I mean, do you think this is one of those deals where again, I wasn't there. I've never talked to anyone about this. I don't know. I'm not trying to push you in one direction or the other. I'm genuinely asking, do you think this is one of those deals where, like we've heard, where maybe once upon a time Fit Finley on an overseas tour was just trying to get some heat, made a mistake with a flag and their local customs. And as a result, Vince fired him, but then he brings him right back. I mean, is this one of those sort of, hey man, I know this was bullshit, but this is the way of the world. So I got to do this for a little bit, but I'm going to bring you right back, but I've got to do this for the greater good right now. Is it one of those deals, or do you think it's a legitimate, God damn it, Bryan, you've got to be smarter than this?
Well, number one, Fit was not told we're going to bring you back. Fit got fired over something that they had done 1,000 times at live events, which was live resistance,
right,
interrupting the national anthem.
There you go.
When Fit got fired, it was a legitimate firing, and they didn't bring him right back. He was gone for probably a year. Which if you're used to being in the spot he is and making the money he was making, that's
a year off.
That's a pretty stout loss, isn't it?
Yes, substantial.
You bet your ass it is. This was not an angle. I think he got fired off of the choking because of the PG product and what he thought. This was like a preventive strike. That Vince thought there was going to be this windfall coming. So he fired the guy. And the only reason Daniel Bryan was brought back is because it was such a lousy thing to do for him to be held responsible and lose his job over that when nobody told him not to do it. Most guys weren't even aware, that rule existed. They were all told, but it wasn't something that was right in their prefrontal lobe every minute of every match. It could have happened, and it did happen. And I think that the only reason Daniel Bryan was brought back was because of the groundswell of the audience that were pulling for him. Legitimately pulling for him. They wanted the guy, they knew he got screwed, and they wanted him back, and that's the reason he came back, and the only reason.
Well, there's other people campaigning for him. I can't believe this is real, but even PETA sent a letter to Vince McMahon saying they needed to rehire him because he represents the quintessential vegan badass. They even have a spokesperson out there who's for PETA saying you got to hire back Daniel Bryan. So he does have a whole groundswell of support. Ultimately, he does get to come back. We know he's going to become a big superstar, but you got to feel like, I don't know, beyond bad for the guy when he gets news like this. Did you have a chance to talk to him? I mean, when you were watching this go down on a monitor, did you immediately recognize, oh shit, he shouldn't be choking him? Or was it something because there's so much chaos, you just missed it?
I never thought about it. I was sitting in the back, but when I saw things melting down at Gorilla, and then I was backstage, and from a distance, I was, eyeballing this thing, I could see that it was a serious deal. And the blank look on Daniel Bryan's face told me he had no idea that he had done anything wrong. He certainly didn't do anything wrong on purpose.
Right.
He was just sitting there with his eyes bugged out of his head going, what did I do? What did I do? I mean, I wasn't saying that. That's if the VH1 bubble popped up by his head, that's what it would have said. What did I do wrong? I just did what I was told.
So Vince in Gorilla is flipping out right away, seeing what's going down.
Oh, when he saw the choking and all that stuff, I imagine now I'm arriving on the scene late, but I saw how far this thing went, destroying everything out there. I went, wow, these guys are going to get some serious heat. This is never been done before. They're basically shutting down production.
Did you, it was written in the newsletter at the time that John Cena was campaigning to bring him back, and Cena even commented on his social media at the time that he'd like to see Bryan back. Do you think John went to bat for him to try to get him back with the company?
Well, I would hope so.
Yeah.
Because, if you're a good person and, sometimes the shortest route to doing the right thing is just do the right thing.
Right.
Does it take a brain surgeon to figure out what the right thing is? The guy hypothetically made a mistake, but it wasn't something that, it's like for the longest time, chair shots to the head are gone.
Right.
And for a good reason. So, it's not like he picked up a chair and milked it and measured a guy and hit him right in the top of the head and split him wide open with a chair. Then you got to be thinking, well, Jesus, that took some thought. It wasn't just a reaction. I'm sure he ripped the guy's shirt off. He saw the tie hanging there and he just grabbed it. It was just one of those things. It wasn't a premeditated act.
Hey, it's Conrad Thompson. Thanks for checking out the podcast here on YouTube. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notifications bell so you get a notice anytime we upload some new content. And go save yourself some money right now. If you're in a 30-year loan or you have credit card debt, it's not a matter of if I can save you money. It's a matter of how much. Find out right now for free at SaveWithConrad.com.